Welcome again, everybody, to today's session of Junior Achievement of New Jersey's Women's Future Leadership Academy. We are so happy to have all of you joining us today, and we thank you so much for your participation. We are very excited about today's session. We are going to give everybody just another minute to log on before we kick it off officially. But in the meantime, we invite you to say hello in that chat room. We love to use the chat room during the beginning of the meetings. So if you'd like, go ahead and navigate down to that chat room. I think a lot of us are nice and familiar with Zoom by now. So feel free to drop in and say hello. Also, while we are saying hello, I'd like to say hello and welcome our featured speaker, Paula, who is going to be speaking in a minute. So Paula, maybe we can take a minute and test your microphone.
Okay, how is this?
It's perfect. It's
great.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll give everybody one more minute to join. In the meantime, please feel free to say hello in that chat room. Excellent. Also, one of our interns, Sanjana, has joined us from Drexel. Sanjana, we welcome you. Thank you again for joining. Some new faces, some new names, and some familiar names. So really great to have some new people joining us and some veterans of the Women's Future Leadership Academy joining us. So please feel free, if you haven't done that already, say hello in that chat room. And why don't we go ahead and get started? So today's session is all about getting ready for college. So regardless if you are a freshman, sophomore, junior, or even if you're in your senior year, we are so excited to have a fantastic expert who is joining us today to give us some really great information about college applications and writing a great essay. And even if you don't have to write a college essay, we all have to do writing assignments in school, in high school and in college, and writing is a really, really important skill. So the tips that she's going to share will help us no matter what we are writing, whether it be a college essay or anything else school related. So we thank her for that, and we thank you all again for joining. So let's move right along here. For those of you who are new to the Women's Future Leadership Academy, we have sessions like this on Wednesdays. For now, they are on Wednesdays. Of course, we're going to be flexible, so if things change, we may be offering the series and the workshops at different times or different days, but right now we have everything scheduled for Wednesdays at 5 p.m. And just so you know, if you are unable to join on a particular Wednesday, you can view the recordings later because we do record the sessions and we put them up in our library, as well as post them on our website. So please feel free to go ahead and you can find those recordings on our library and on our website. We have some really great sessions lined up for this fall, just about every Wednesday until the end of the year. And then we will begin again in January, but you can visit our website to get all the information, all the details, and register for all these sessions. And the website address is right there, janjacademy.org. Just a reminder, the Women's Future Leadership Academy is open to all New Jersey high school students. So please feel free to share with your classmates, your friends, your teachers. We are trying to build a strong statewide network of future women leaders so that really we can get together and have these conversations and build each other up and grow our network. So the more the merrier, the bigger we are, the more impact we can collectively make. So please feel free to share this information with your friends and classmates. Also, what we are doing this year is we are offering a digital badge for career readiness. So some of you may have heard about digital badging. These are sort of micro credentials that you can include on your LinkedIn page if you have one, or on your social media profiles, or you can include on your college applications or your resumes. And it is our digital badge for career readiness. So how do you earn this? It's very simple. All you have to do is participate in 5 or more sessions from now till the end of the school year, submit a final project, and complete our post-assessment survey just to measure your knowledge gain and your participation. So again, we'll post details about how to earn that badge on the website. Those will be ready probably by next week. But again, we make it very easy for you. There's no deadline. It's just participating in 5 or more sessions and completing that final project. If you participated last year, many of you were able to earn a certificate of leadership. So the digital badge for career readiness replaces that certificate of leadership. So if you've done if you did that last year, and you are still eligible to earn your digital badge this year. So stay tuned and go on our website to get information about that. So moving forward, this is an overview of today's session. Again, I'm Christy Vedron, Director of Education at Junior Achievement in New Jersey. And I'd like to take a minute to welcome our intern, Orianna Nelson. She has been working with the Women's Future Leadership Academy all last year, and she is a student at Princeton University. So Orianna, if you could please take a moment and say hello to everybody.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Hi, I'm sorry I couldn't make it last week, but to quickly introduce myself, as Christy said, my name is Orianna Nelson, and I am a JA&J intern, and I do attend Princeton University. I'm currently a sophomore. And just to talk a little bit about myself and the college experience, I'm in the midst of figuring out a major change. So to everyone out there who's, a senior and worrying about college, you still have time to decide. There's a lot of pressure to decide in high school, but life is not a straight road. There's so many different paths to go down. So you do have time to figure out what, you're more passionate about. And one thing I'll also say, I think is relevant because we're doing a college essay workshop. College is definitely hard, but, it's really important to reach out to people and to be vulnerable. At the end of the day, there's a huge network of people who want you to be successful. So it's important to reach out to people whenever you can if you're struggling, and remember that you're never alone. And in my college experience so far, one thing that I definitely try to prioritize or think about frequently is mental health. It does not matter what stage of life you're in, whether you're in middle school right now or high school or applying to college or in college yourself or in the workforce. Mental health is something to definitely consider. And I think it's important to, push yourself, but also be willing to step back and be like, okay, I'm doing too much. And that's definitely one thing I would suggest about anything in life, but specifically in college, because it is a very tasking thing to do. But that's all we want to say right now. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the session.
All right. Thank you so much, Orianna, for joining us and for always sharing such fabulous words of wisdom right from Princeton University. We are so grateful to have you. Also, again, I gave a shout out to our other intern Sanjana from Drexel, who has also joined us. And Sanjana, I'll probably put you on the spot later on in the session before we go into the breakouts. If you wouldn't mind saying hello at that time, we would love to hear from you. So if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, Sanjana, before the breakouts, that would be great. So again, our agenda, we are going to hear from a wonderful expert from our great partner, ETS, Educational Testing Services, which is headquartered right here in New Jersey. Paula is going to be joining us in just a minute and sharing some really great advice about college applications and essays. Then we're going to talk a little bit about financial aid and completing that FAFSA. If you've ever heard of that, that's something that you have to use to apply for financial aid. And then later around 5:30 or so, we're going to go into some breakout sessions where we'll have some small group brainstorming, where we're going to put you in small groups of maybe 5 or 6. And you're going to have an opportunity to kind of think about things that you might want to write on a college essay. So that will be a lot of fun. But without further ado, I would like to turn it over and give a huge thanks again to our featured speaker, Paula Schumacher from ETS. Paula, I have your slides here, so I'm happy to go ahead and advance them when you give me the word. So everybody, please welcome and thank you so much, Paula.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate being able to come to this event and share what I have learned. Just a little brief background about me. I do work at ETS as a business systems analyst. I've written 4 novels. I definitely have gone on that not straight line path as far as careers. I went to an engineering school for a while. I came to KU down in Lawrence, Kansas to get a journalism degree. I did a study abroad in France, and I came back to KU and got an MBA. And it wasn't until I was in the middle of my MBA program that I realized what I really liked doing was working in IT as a business analyst. So lightning can strike and you can figure out your life anywhere along the path. It's really amazing when you look back. So all that said, I did some research and thoughts and ideas on writing the college admission essay. There's a lot of information out there. My specialty is more in writing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a lot of information. This slide is going to be available to you later. So don't worry if I'm speeding along really quickly. So go to the next one. All right, so I'm going to cover resources on college admission essays, do's and don'ts, a little bit about the Common App essay topics. And the Common App is a way to apply to, I think it's like over 200 colleges, and they give you these essay topics. So that may not be something that you do, and you can talk about it later, and some of the links will go to that. But it gives you an idea of topics that they may ask. And then writing, which is what we're really going to cover. Okay, next slide. So these are some resources that I found that I thought were kind of good. It was just, you can Google. I just say Google and just go to more than one place, because if you go to one place and read it, it might not be like the truth, or it might be somebody who has a very jaded view or a singular view of the subject. So I looked at these. They all look to be pretty decent for different reasons. So Google to your heart's content, find places or check these ones out. Next. Some do's and don'ts. I'm going to just say that almost all of these do's and don'ts appear on almost everybody's website. The only thing I would say that I added that's really different is on the don'ts, the very last one is don't let the example essays get to you, right? I mean, like they're showing like, I don't want to say it's like the best of the best and that it's going to freak you out, but they're like really polished and they're very amazing kind of things that have happened. And it's, it's like, just don't let it get to you. This is somebody else's life, somebody else's essay, and yours is going to shine and be your story, right? So don't compare yourself to anybody to that extent, right? Anyway, I hope you get that. The next one. So here are some of these common essay topics, and basically they're kind of like prompts to get you to start, like what's a background, identity, interest, or talent that's really meaningful to you, or what are obstacles you've encountered that you've gotten around, or what has challenged your belief or an idea, something that somebody has done for you that really changed your life, or an accomplishment, event, or realization, a topic, idea, or concept that you find really engaging. So from the Common App, you can select one of these, but if you apply to a particular college, they might have a very particular essay they want you to write on. But these are the kinds of questions that you might be faced with. Next. So writing itself, the boring stuff. You're going to have a word count. You should stick to that word count. You can go a little bit over, but it's not as important as your content. But you shouldn't go like twice as much, or, so maybe 10% over you could do. And some of them are as low as 650 words, which is like 1 page, and 250 is maybe like 2 pages. The overall outline I think you should look for, or you should work with, is an opening hook, something that grabs their attention, the experience or lesson, the impact it's had on your life, and then the conclusion that you have. And definitely you should not have any errors in grammar or spelling. Next. The goals, right? So when you're writing, you want to share of yourself and your life and your thinking and reveal a bit of yourself. It might feel like you're opening yourself really kind of up more than you usually do to anybody. But that's what they're really looking for. They're looking for a real piece of you. You want to keep it specific, not be generalized, a small slice of life, be thoughtful. Don't be too like glib. Like, don't just kind of say, you know, it's like this, you know, dude, or something weird like that. Just kind of be more thoughtful. Like you're really sharing like of yourself to somebody in a serious way. Show the emotion, the conflict, the complexity of your life. And just so you know that, especially when you read these example ones, right? Like maybe the examples you read or other people, you know, they've had real hardships in their life or great complexity. Just realize that everybody's life throws them complexity in the way that it does. Everybody has different lessons they learn. And that emotion, conflict, complexity for you is your complexity, right? So you might, you'll have it, and yours is valid for you. And that's what your essay will be about, right? Your life. Next one. All right, now getting to the writing, the fun part, if you ask me, but also the hard part. So there's two types of writers. Just know who you are, right? There's planners who love to get it all figured out before they even start writing on the page. They want to do all their research and everything. And then there's the pantsers who just start writing and they figure things out as they go. Neither is wrong. It's just who you are. So just remember that with your timeline and whatever you have to get done and meeting the deadlines, just realize who you are and how you kind of build the structure or the non-structure to get everything done. So you have your topic, you have an idea of the story you want to tell. The first thing I like to do, and this is kind of my writing style, so yours might be different, but this works for me, which is do a brain dump. Just write without thinking, just have your writing prompt, the topic, and just write the story. And go ahead and be bad. Dare to be bad, right? It's going to stink. It's going to be bad, but you're going to get it out and you're going to get like your feelings and your emotions about it and kind of the story, and there might be missing parts and everything, right? So when you look at this first draft, you know, it's going to look bad and you're going to want to like maybe even crumple it up, throw it away, start over, right? But go ahead and Google quotes about first drafts. No writer likes their first draft. I mean, everybody, all the famous writers, everybody who's ever written, they hate their first draft. So don't throw your first draft away. Just save it, take a break, sleep, eat, and come back to it to write the second draft. So look at what you've got, move it around, get it kind of fixed up a bit, shape it up, right? Remove things that really kind of don't belong, because with your limited word count, you have to really kind of stay on the main storyline, not too many asides, right? Like my mom, who also liked to wear flowery clothes, unless that flowery clothes really fits the story. You don't want those, you know, parenthetical information. The next one. I'm sorry if I'm really running fast, but I'm worried I won't cover it all. So then you read your second draft. If it seems decent, show it to some people to get feedback, right? Make sure that they see what the essay question is. And if it doesn't seem quite decent enough, you know, tweak it a little bit more before you hand it out to people. So I want to tell you something about feedback, because feedback is very hard for me. I don't know, some people do really well with feedback, but for me, it's kind of like, what? You don't like it? It isn't perfect. I love it. This is my baby. How can you say these terrible things about this beautiful thing I wrote, right? So for me, whenever I get feedback, the first thing I have to do is I have to back off, and I kind of need some alone time and some downtime, you know, and then I have to kind of gradually come back, right? So that's my kind of first note there. So I would say there's three types of feedback you're going to get. You're going to get feedback that isn't helpful at all. You're going to get feedback you don't like, and you're going to get feedback you really love, right? So the stuff that isn't helpful is like, wow, you wrote this, you know how to write, that is so awesome, right? So it's not really feedback, right? You kind of have to just say thanks to that. And then there's people that kind of say, wow, what if you did something totally different, right? Like you have a story that you wrote, and all of a sudden they have these other ideas for what your story could be, right? And the best thing to do with that is to kind of be neutral about it and kind of move on. So you can say, wow, that's a really interesting idea. I might use that. By the way, what did you think of this? Or just kind of like, if they won't let up, just say, because really it's a story they might write or you might write later, but it's not this story that you're writing today. All right, then the next is just really weird. Like, I mean, because might have an intense story and they might say like, wow, are you on something, you wrote this, or this is really weird or something. And you can kind of say like, well, you can try to get more out of them, like weird good, weird bad, or you can just kind of back away from them, like saying, I was just trying to be creative or do something different, or it's the first draft. Right? So you can try to get more out of them about how they really felt about it, or you can just kind of back away and say, okay, I'm not going to this person anymore for feedback, right? Then the next thing is the curious about the feedback that you don't like. The first thing is, let's see, I can't quite see this. So let me, I have to minimize, I think, this on my page a second, sorry. All right, so if they say something like, I'm not really sure you answered the question, right? And you're going to feel like you did answer the question. Just kind of ask them, like, so tell me more about that. What do you think the question is? How do you feel I miss it? Do you think I miss all of it or just some of it, right? And if they say something like, this doesn't make sense, right? It's really they're saying they get lost. And if they get lost, college admission people might get lost. It might be like, for me, a lot of times when I'm telling a story, I just jump. I jump from point A to point like M, and I'm not bringing the reader along. I really have to tell them all these little things. And so you just ask, like, where do you get lost, right? And they'll tell you. Next slide. And then they might just say, wow, you have it wrong. This is totally wrong, right? And then you can just say, wow, well, this is what I was trying to do. And you could ask them, what were you thinking about? Or how do you say I leave this in? Or you could say, use what they know to improve your work, or determine if maybe it isn't good feedback, you can like not use it, or if they can help you make your piece even stronger. Right? So that one's kind of a little hard to work, but you have to think about them being helpful and trying to help you write something better. But at the same time, you have to make sure that if they're going in a different direction, it might not be feedback for you. And that's part of the hard thing, is knowing what feedback is for you and what isn't. The next one is be cautious about the feedback that you love. Try to get the specifics on what works and if anything doesn't really work, right? So, if they tell you good things about what you've written, you're going to love it. I mean, it feels really good to have somebody say that what you do is really great. But sometimes that doesn't really help you know if you have weak points in what you wrote, right? So you want to push back a little bit about it and maybe just say, well, really, what did you think about this particular piece? Or did you think it was strong all the way from the beginning? Like, were you really hooked on the first question? Did you really feel like I shared of myself? So things like that are what you're going to want to say. So then after all this feedback, you're going to want to incorporate the feedback, weigh it, like I said. And then also, if everybody commented on the same thing, like if everybody said, wow, well, I really wasn't into it until the middle, right? Then you're going to think, I don't have a really good hook. I didn't hook them at the beginning. So I'm going to have to look at that. But if you send it to like 5 people and only one person really said that, then it might just be that one person just didn't get it, right? Or you're not really sure. So it's kind of like the more people say something about it, then the more you know. On the other hand, right, if you were given it to like an English teacher and they're the only person who said, well, it's kind of slow until the middle, then you maybe have to give that a bit more weight, because that person is maybe like a writer themselves. So you just have to kind of think of it that way. Again, a bit complex, but you'll get the gist of it. So then take some time before you're making changes. Don't just jump right in. You might make some notes to yourself on what you think you want to change, or make some notes in your draft, right? Like in parentheses, or highlight, like, I think I want to change this way. But you might talk about it, think about it in different ways, to improve it. Like for one, somebody might tell me something and I'm just like, oh man, that changes everything. That kills my whole story. I'm not really sure about this. But then if I give it a little bit of time, it's kind of like, my subconscious, my conscious, I talk to people and it's like, oh, I could do it this way, or I could do it that way. you know, to get to that issue. The next one. So then, of course, you're going to write your third draft once you get this feedback in. And then you want to make sure that you hit these pieces, which is, I'm sorry, I'm in a hotel room and somebody else is there. Carol, could you shut the door? Thanks. Sorry about that. I'm actually in Phoenix. So the opening hooks. Hooks are hard. It's kind of like when you go to a bookstore or online or anything and you open the story, it's like if you read the first 2 sentences, it's like, do you want to keep reading or not? Right? That's the hook. And it can be very hard to do. So I'm going to say, don't worry about the hook in drafts 1 and 2, right? If you get it, great. If you don't, but open with something big or small or weird or totally unexpected, right? Don't start with, it was a dark and stormy night, and try not to be, I don't want to say blasé, but if you do something that's just kind of really you or really your story, or, you know, like I always told, guns kill people, but not people, but today, or I like, always laugh when somebody snorts. I mean, like, who's going to write that, right? Like, or the recipe for disaster is 1 cup, or I don't know. I do fiction mostly. So, you know, my first step squished on his eyeball. That's a little bit dark, but so, and you can totally Google about hooks and things like that. And when you see the examples, you might look at the hooks that they use. Just look at the first sentence or 2 and just kind of think about for your story, your response. It doesn't have to come from the beginning either. Your hook, you can start in the middle and grab something that's the most interesting piece of it and then go, you know, back. So you say, well, 3 days earlier, right? Or you can say, like, this maybe happened to you when you're 5 years old. And you can say, hey, fast forward 10 years. This is what happened next. So your hook can come from almost anywhere. All right. The next is the experience or the lesson. For how it changes your life, what it does for you, anything goes. I mean, how it really impacted you, as long as, you know, it's not really gory. I mean, it could be a very bad thing. Just a second. Or it could be something that really isn't pleasant. I mean, it could be bad. I guess what I mean by gory or X-rated is in my books, I kill a lot of people, tell you the truth, but I just don't show the blood. I guess, you know, like some movies, right? Like the thriller movies where you see the blood on the wall and all that stuff. It's like you can have, you know, death and destruction in your essay, but just don't go into it in detail. And I don't think that you can because it's so short. So maybe you don't have to worry about this point as much. And just a reminder that it doesn't have to be wild, crazy, or heartbreaking to be a good essay. It just has to be something that really is true to you or spoke to you or really made a big change in your life. So it doesn't have to be intense. And then this piece is kind of important, but more important, it's how it's impacted you, which I think I've been talking about. And it could be something that happens to everybody, right? It could be like 500 people walk through this park every day, but for you, when you walked through last Tuesday and you looked down and you saw the leaves changing for some reason, that had a huge impact on you, and all of a sudden you understood things differently. I mean, then that's your story, and that's okay. That, you know, everybody else does this, and maybe they get this, maybe they don't, but for you, that's what's important, and that's all right. The next slide, please. Is impact. So again, this you have to show is how it impacts your life. And I don't know, I usually, when I write to like myself, maybe a younger self or a stranger, and that helps me talk on a really personal level. And it could almost be like if you journal or if you have a diary, like who you're writing to when you write that, that's kind of almost where you want to be with this, is you want to share that deeply. And then the conclusion is you have to kind of show, okay, so like X happened, right? And it did this, this was the impact it had on my life. And this is what I'm drawing from that. You have to kind of have that conclusion. And I know I have some silly ones here, right? But it's kind of like, you know, and that's how I became, you know, that's how I'm changed. I'll always be this way. I'll always see this or something. So you want a conclusion. So now we have a few different little things. Those are the main things, right? Because if you overcount, you can always use rewrite it, try to make the sentences shorter, delete things that aren't essential. It's always good to read your essay out loud because it helps you with the flow and hearing it. Look for overused words. I wouldn't worry about that as much unless you say, I got in the car was red, all the cars, you know, so you start hearing, and especially if you read it out loud, you'll be like, oh, I just said car like 3 times in a row. So that's what that's about. Replace weak words. You know, you might just first write it in your first and second draft and you just say, well, we talked about this, we did that. And you want to maybe have stronger words if it's possible. Like instead of talk, like, did you talk or was it argue or was it, you know, what? So something that says a little bit more exactly what you were doing or what the action was. And then jargon and slang, you can have that, especially, you know, if it's part of your life. I just want to say, like, I'll read this for you. This is how I grew up, right? What you gonna say when they laugh at how you speak, eh? Right? I grew up in the North, right? So if I were to write that, nobody would really get it, right? So I have to speak, you have to write it so that you see it more in quotes, right? So you write, you know, like school English or proper English or whatever, and you can use your slang or whatever you want, but it'd have to be in quotes. The next page. All right, final review. You want to have good people read your draft. Sometimes it's good to have somebody who hasn't seen it before read it because they'll be like fresh eyes. And, you know, if any of it, they say, you know, if you get feedback that it's not working, you always have your previous drafts, right? Always save each draft is like draft 1, draft 2, draft 3, so that you can always keep all of your stuff and you can go back to it in case, you know, you go down a path and you didn't realize and you want to go back. Brief note on convictions. You know, I've had people in my lives just say, you can't hand that in to your teacher. Like, please don't hand this in. This is a weird story, right? And it's like, if this is important to you, if this is, you know, personal to you, go with it, right? You can think about this also as feedback, but you know, they aren't you, they don't get it. And you're really trying to write something very personal and touching. And if it's exactly right for you, then that goes. And then I have like editing, have somebody edit it or definitely have the software edit it, make changes as you need, verify your word count, read it one more time, send it in, and do something nice for yourself. So that was maybe really, really fast. Sorry if, were there some questions? Christy, I don't know if you want to ask me or read me the questions? Or?
Yes, we did. And thank you so much for sharing that. That was just fantastic information. Again, whether we're writing a college essay or even if we're just writing, writing is just such an important skill, and you've given us some really great tips. A couple great questions here in the chat room, if you don't mind. Aaliyah asked, why do we have to write essays for college?
Why do you? I think that, like, I've interviewed people for jobs, and when I'm looking at resumes, it's hard to really know who that person is, even though it's got all of your skills and where you've been and what you've done. A big part of hiring somebody or bringing them to your college is trying to figure out who this person is. And in the work situation, right? It's kind of like, is this a person who's gonna work well with the other people? Is this person gonna work well on my team, right? Is this a good person, a good employee? And so I'm trying to find, make a connection with you, right? And so for everything that you answer and all your GPA and things like that, I could maybe connect with you, like if you said you were the star basketball player and I was a star basketball player, then I would really understand where you're coming from. But the essay gives me a chance to really know you better. And so that's that connection that you're making.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And then we had another question in the chat room from Caitlin. Caitlin asked, how do you deal with writer's block?
Right. So that's part of the brain dump on like step 1 or slide 6 or 7, wherever it was, is that you just start writing and know that it's going to be bad and let it be bad and just start wherever. And I would say you can even start with like an automatic type of writing. Sit down and tell yourself that you're going to fill like 1 page or 3 pages, right? And just start writing, and no matter what, don't stop. And even if you have to say, I can't think of anything to write, I'm just still writing because I have to still write. I have to write this essay and try to turn it, right? I have to write this stupid essay or this great essay or this essay I'm not really sure I want to write. I'm not sure what I'm doing with it, blah, 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 blah. And maybe I could write about this, or maybe I could write about that, and just keep going. And eventually, you know, it at least starts getting you moving and writing, because yeah, sometimes it's pretty daunting to be there with a blank page, but just realize just tell yourself, this is going to be bad, but I'm going to start. Here we go, right? Any other questions?
All right. Sorry, I think I lost everybody. We're back here. Okay. I think we had one more question from the chat room, and I think this is something that I could answer quickly before we move into our next part of the program. Can everybody hear me okay? Orianna, can you hear me all right? Oh, good. I thought I had a little glitch there. Let's see. Aaliyah also asked about how many pages are the essay. And again, that all depends on the application that you're filling out. The application will say how many words or how long it has to be. So it depends on the college. Not all colleges require an essay, but a lot of them do. Some of them are optional. So if you feel like you're a good writer, it's a good idea to put that essay in there. So I just wanted to say thank you again to Paula for sharing your time and your talents with us. Certainly, we are so grateful for your feedback, and I feel like I want to read your book. So is there a way that we can find out more about the books that you've written, Paula?
Yeah, you can Google me. I've done. Yeah, I'm writing a historical. Well, anyway, you can Google me. There's 4 different, and I write in a lot of different genres, so it's kind of crazy. But yeah.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much again, Paula. We really appreciate your time and your talents. Thank you so much for joining. And
thank you.
We are going to move on. And Paul, again, from ETS, we're so grateful to ETS again as well for being our partner in the Junior Achievement Women's Future Leadership Academy for the 2nd year now. We are going to very quickly, before we move on, we're going to talk a little bit about the FAFSA. And I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask Orianna to give me the thumbs up again. Orianna, can you, do you see my screen here? Do you see this little, okay, great. Excellent. So again, this is the first time I'm using Zoom, and this is the first time I'm using this kind of platform. This is actually a little mini lesson from a program that we have called JA Finance Park. And the JA Finance Park has a section about the FAFSA. So I'm just going to very quickly go through this, and then we're going to go into our breakout sessions. But first, hear from our other intern, Sanjana. But for those of you who, and please feel free to post in the chat room, when you apply for college, you also have to fill out a form called the FAFSA, which stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid. So college, as we know, college is expensive, and it's really important to look at all the different types of financial aid that you can get. And the first step in doing that is filling out this FAFSA. So let me go to the next slide here. Okay, there are lots of different ways to pay for your education. Scholarships, grants, work, study, jobs, student loans, and then of course, all of that is financial aid. And when you fill out the FAFSA, that will let the United States Department of Education determine how much federal student aid you can get. So you have to fill out the FAFSA form, which is filled out online. One important thing to know is that there is never a charge for submitting the FAFSA. So if a company or an organization comes to you and says, hey, here's the FAFSA, it's $50 to fill out. No, the FAFSA, the first letter in FAFSA is free. So you should never pay for filling out the FAFSA. So step one is to fill out that form. You can do it online. It goes to the Department of Education, and then later you get your student aid report that says how much you are eligible for. So again, it's part of the admissions process for all colleges and universities in the United States. So even if you think you're not eligible for student aid, for federal aid, you still need to fill it out. It allows the Department of Education to connect students with educational funding opportunities. So here's a video that gives you an idea. And Orianna, can you hear the video person?
Not yet. Or no, I do not hear it. No.
Okay, then I'm going to skip that.
I hear something slightly, but I don't know if that was a video playing. It was very muted.
Yeah, I'll skip that. But again, this will be on our website. So if you want to find out more about that, and that video there is posted just right on the FAFSA website. So that's very easy to access. But there are a couple things that you have to have ready before you fill out the FAFSA. And this is where it gets a little tricky. You have to have all your student identification information. Now, this right here is what the paper copy looks like. When you go and fill it out online, which is much, much easier, it's going to look a little bit different, but you have to have all this information ready. Things like your social security number, email address, all of that stuff. You have to have information about your parents or guardians, all those kinds of things. So you have to just get information ready before you can put it in. Your student financial information, that's if anything that you've earned or anything that you have to pay. For example, if you are, say you owe child support, right? You'll have to put that in there, things like that. And then of course, information about your parent or guardian's financial stuff. So they'll have to look at their tax returns from the previous year, all those kinds of things. Now there are, when you go through this online application, there are all kinds of little buttons, tools that you can push, like little question marks that will give you additional help for each section. So it's not like if you don't know all this stuff right away, you're stuck. You can click that little tool there that gives you additional information, or you can save it and go back to it later. So it's not like you have to complete it all at once. Because again, it is tricky. I've done it for my own kids. I've helped them through it. I've done 4 now. It's tricky, right? So, just be sure that you have someone to kind of help you through it if you can, and have all that information ready. And then you also have to put down your potential schools. So any school that you are applying to or think you're applying to or have applied to, you just want to go in and find the school name and the code. Usually on the school's website, they'll have the code, or you can even look up the code within the FAFSA and it will give you the school's code. So every school has their own individual code, and then that school will get your FAFSA information. Okay, so again, these are the information that you have to have. Financial records is the most important thing that you have to have there. Okay, so again, this is just a little quiz here. Which resources must you have to complete the FAFSA? So this is a little quiz. I'll let everybody kind of answer this in the chat room if you like. What are some things that you have to have? Do you have to have details about extracurriculars? Do you have to have financial and tax information? Do you have to have letters of recommendation? Or do you have to have codes for the colleges or universities? So we'll post that question in the chat room. Here's a little quiz. If you want to guess which ones are the right answers, you can go ahead and do that. You can put your answers in the chat box, or you can just think of what your answer might be. But I'll tell you the answers. The answers are, you guys are right. So the answers are, you have to have your financial tax information, and you have to have the codes for the colleges. Now, these other things here, details about extracurriculars and letters of recommendations, those will go in your applications. So you have two things to fill out for college. One is your application, right? And a lot of colleges use what's called the common application. So if a school takes the common application, that's really the same thing that you can fill out and send it to different schools. Some schools might have something specific that they want included on that common application, but those are your extracurriculars and your letters of recommendation go in your application. The financial tax information and the codes for the colleges and universities will go in your FAFSA, and you only have to do one FAFSA, and that's for all your colleges. So a couple questions here in the chat. Do you have to fill out multiples if you want to apply to multiple schools? No, you just filled the, thank you, Lynette. Thank you for answering that question in the chat room, for being ahead of me there. We appreciate it. So again, when you go to the FAFSA website, it might sound complicated now because I'm going through it quickly, but there are lots of little tools there and Q&As within that website that you can find. The most important thing is that you have to the sooner you fill it out, the better. The application's open on October 1st. So fill it out as soon as you can, because for a lot of times there is a certain amount of dollars available. And the sooner you fill it out, the more likely you are to get financial aid, federal student aid. So fill it out as quickly as possible. The application opens up. If you're a senior, you can do it right now on October 1st. And then you have to fill it out again every year. So if you're a junior in college, you have to fill it out again before your junior year. So that's what that looks like. Okay, I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to turn it over to our other intern, Sanjana. Sanjana, if you wouldn't mind saying hello and saying a few words. I know you've got a quick drop off. Sanjana?
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Christy, for allowing me to introduce myself. This was a great session, and it's great to see all of you here. And big shout out to everyone who spoke. I definitely took a lot out of it, so I'm sure others will as well who are actually going through the process. So as Christy mentioned, I'm Sanjana. I'm J&J's Fireside Chat Coordinator. I'm a sophomore at Drexel University studying finance and business analytics. And I just wanted to quickly echo what Orianna said in the beginning, just about, being in college and not really knowing what you want to do for sure. Like, that's totally okay. It happens to everyone. And, don't really stress out too much beforehand. Just sort of, go through the process, definitely work hard, take tips away from this session to better your essays and applications, but at the same time, know that you have a whole journey ahead of you, so you don't need to get too caught up into it now.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Sanjana, and thank you, Orianna, our fabulous college interns. You guys are always amazing. And guess what? We are ready for our breakout rooms now. So I am going to put all of you in breakout rooms in just a moment. We have Orianna, I'll probably put you in a breakout room. And then we have our volunteer, Lynette, who has also joined us from ETS, who is going to be in a breakout room as well. But this is what we're going to do in our breakout rooms. So we talked a little bit about writing something really great about yourself in an essay. So we're going to do a little brainstorming. And this is to kind of just get us thinking about some things that we're going to write about. So in your breakout rooms, we're just going to have little conversations and maybe answer one of these questions. What are some of the things that you might be able to write about in an essay? Do you have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is meaningful to you? Is there a lesson you took from an obstacle you encountered? A belief or idea you've questioned or challenged? An accomplishment or event that you are proud of or helped you grow? Or a topic or idea or concept you find so engaging it makes you lose all track of time? So those are some of the questions that we might want to answer. Or if you'd just like to, in the breakout rooms, maybe share something about yourself that's unique, or accomplishment that you've had recently, or something that you're proud of. So no pressure here. Again, we're just brainstorming. This is just step one, thinking about what you might want to write about. We're not actually writing, we're just talking about things that are great. So everybody take a minute to look at that. I am going to assign these breakout sessions, and I'm going to start them in about 1 minute.